Good afternoon, good evening. Today is Monday, the first of 5 days. It is August 12th, 2024. Our goal today is to review the market generated information in a consolidated fashion. We're following the narrative of the auction from ES and NQ, and we'll continue to compress, track, and review all information gleaned. If we have time, we will theorize and add additional commentary towards the end. Today, I did sit out the market today, so 100% of the information is in hindsight or just purely objective. I did not do a video today. There's no recording. Just wanted to take an off day. All right, let's go ahead and get started. We'll take a quick look at the monthly candle to start here, just to kind of see where we're at as we start the week. So we ended today. This is our monthly candle. So if you go back to our other videos, it still looks pretty much the same. This will be the weekly candle. We have our inverted hammer here. We have, one moment. Sorry about that. We have our hammer candle here, and we are still in the same position. We pretty much sat sideways for the majority of the day. I'm not exactly sure what this is called, but our goal was to build volume higher, and the bulls appear to be doing it. So we did push through the high of the prior day, and we're starting to eat up the range from, that is the wrong, I should be able to do, yeah, just do that. So we're drawing here. So from the 4880s, from the 5480s, all the way down to the 5122s. So almost a 400, so almost a 300, almost 400 point move rather. And you see there we're trading above this 62% area. So again, still favor on the bear side as we're in the immediate trend downwards, as this would be more of a bear channel, bear flagging. But you do have to respect the shorter time frame in the overall grand scheme of things of where we're at. So very nice day for the Bulls. We'll look at the stats a little later for the specifics. Quick look at the NQ, the monthly, same situation. Same situation. Same situation here as well, except we've closed completely over that prior zone, which should have been the Friday, the end of that week before we had the news from Japan and the overnight sell-off. Let's go ahead and take a look at the sector tracker to see exactly what happened here. I like having up the quote of the day. Don't judge each day by the harvest you reap, but by the seeds that you plant. Robert Louis Stevenson. Looking at it today here for our sector tracker. Oh, I just had a deja vu, which is very nice to be in this position and have a deja vu. So again, we ended about even for the whole day. The only green we have is utilities, which is unsurprising. We were led by technology, which completely held everyone down. This is a bad showing for breath, by the way. And energy, who they are, green, which is definitely nice to see. They've been struggling a little bit, but it's nice to see when they're green. They're not the heaviest weighted in the sectors, nor is utilities. But it's good to see who else tried today. Other than that, everyone else was about negative for about the same percentages. Nice to see healthcare still doing everything. Hopefully, Eli Lilly is leading. Okay, just down about 1%. Not bad. Take a quick look at the earnings. We do have Home Depot tomorrow. Really not too much. Monday on the Monday. It's kind of LOL at that. We do have the Home Depot, which is going to be tomorrow. I'm not too familiar with some of these other ones from a quick glance. I know important would be I think JD a little bit, but definitely the Walmart and somewhat for the Alibaba as well. Go ahead and close those. I want to take a look. We did not do the weekend review and the glimpse into the the following week. I don't really care for doing it too much. I feel like they put some projections for me onto the market, and that's not necessarily healthy. I rather skip the Monday and see where we start and gather more information from there and settle in. So I'll leave my consolidated thoughts towards the end. I do want to look at the sector tractor from the 5 day. So this will go over from last week. Energy led, which is nice to see. Everyone else was about even for the most part outside of staples, which would be our defensive. Interesting to see for utilities. Nice for the healthcare. We saw they were doing well and really good for the banks and communication. I'm really happy to see industrials, healthcare, and financials for sure. I'm not surprised by the staples. And just a quick look at the months since we're looking at monthly candles. Not gonna look too much into this, but of course we're leading to the downside from technology. We want to see them kind of creep up and see if they can start pulling in some of their weight. Hopefully the majority of their selling is behind them. So we understand that we look at the monthly, we look at the weekly, and then the daily. We have an understanding of where the how the sectors are performing. So we have an idea where we're at now. Now when we look at the economic report for the week, the calendar, we definitely have some data that's coming out Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday at our preferred times as well, which would be the 5:30 drops and then the 6:15s. I'm still learning how to navigate around. These aren't typically too important, but after we had our response from the initial jobless claims, it was a very good reminder that we need to look at these as individuals and just worry about how the market is responding to them, not our expectations. But I digress. 5:30, a little bit of 6:15, and mainly 7 o'clock. 7 o'clock is going to be on Friday and Thursday. We just need to be prepared mentally to have some responses to those when they drop. But definitely, I will be eyeballing some particular plays based off our posture following these 5:30 releases Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. We have FOMC minutes next week and some PMI services next week. But we'll the flash PMIs next week rather. But we'll worry about that another time. So we have a good idea of what the calendar looks like this week. We know where we are on the monthly, on the weekly, on the daily. We can even see that we had a goal, and our goal was to build volume higher, and we actually did that. So, very nice showing from Tech. It was a good job that they led for the day because if they didn't, I would imagine that we would see more downside. So that's going to be for the overall the for the overview rather from our top down analysis. That's going to be the top portion of it. I really don't see much of a narrative here outside of build volume and weight. I'll leave some more of the theorizing and the auction market theory portion a little later. We'll go ahead and look at the stats specifically for these two products. Start with the S&P 500. This is a quite low day for volume and a little extra from the buyers, but again, take this with a grain of salt given the low volume, especially relatively speaking. This has been the lowest day since July 9th. Yeah, that week of 4th of July. So holiday type of action for the most part. So take this with a grain of salt. So I'm not going to look too much into this actually. The majority of the volume was in the middle. We'll look more at the profile, but it's basically like a normal shape day with a little more action towards the, I don't know, maybe 35-40% of that range. I would imagine this would be the same situation for NQ, but maybe a little at the halfway, maybe 60% of that range. Let's see. Just bear with me. Lighter volume, lighter than Friday. And the majority of their volume, again, they have more volume in the higher bit of this range and a little less below the halfway mark. And again, this will be more indicative of, let's make sure I'm looking at this correctly. Yeah, so their halfway point is about right here. So it's between these two areas here, but just a lot more volume near the highs. Go ahead and double check. Yes, make sure I'm looking at that correctly. They're about the same actually. So yeah, about the same overall. So we won't look too much into that again. This is an incredibly light day. Let's go ahead and look at the market profile. I did update my charting drawings, my chart drawings over the weekend. Cleaned up a lot. Well, not a lot, but maybe 20 or 30% of mine were a little bit outdated or a little bit confusing. So I have cleaned a lot of these up. The remainings are going to be singles, maybe some former support areas turned into resistance. I definitely added this more gap here, which is just like a lot of thin air. Expecting that we're going to just build volume in here or maybe try to test above this range. And we'll kind of see what happens there, which will either put us into the week before the sell off. But I digress. We're focusing on today. I look at this from at Sunday in real time and noticed that we were just doing some two-way trading. Nothing really special. Couldn't get below the Friday, August 1st volume pointer control. Couldn't stay below. And we really couldn't trade too much above. Once we got into the RTH, we tried to test this LIS zone that we have for Friday. Could barely touch it. And we started to come back down, lower highs and lower lows the entire way through. Really not too much to talk about. This is basically the same as Friday, which was just a high balance day. So we're just gonna merge these two. And honestly, we might as well merge it over here again. But notice we are building volume higher, which is simply the only goal that I had for the buyers. Simply build volume higher and yeah, just kind of burn some time off the clock. We know we have a lot of sellers below us, but for that more macro scheme of positioning, I need to look a little further, but we'll focus on today. So today basically was just another balance day, which we merged with Friday. Not too much happened, but we are building balance higher. So it's definitely a win for the Bulls. I would imagine this is going to be the same case for NQ as we just saw. Same thing with the positioning here. We're just building volume a little higher. That same LIS zone that I had um, relative for the NQ, they ended up getting a little bit rejected there as well. We'll go ahead and give them the same respect. Zoom in a little bit here. Two-way trading a little bit, couldn't get below their VPOC for A1 or that Friday. Drifted up a little bit, ended up hitting our head. I'm sorry, drifted up a little bit, tried to do a stop run. This was indeed a lower high. ES made a lower low, but we'll look at that with the candles shortly. So we drift up, we have a little bit of a stop run, we couldn't actually break it. You would think that this would be enough to possibly push a little higher. Again, when what should happen doesn't, that is not insignificant. So we both rejected the LIS area for Friday. Not saying that this is bearish, not saying this is bullish, but this is just information. Since this was a balanced day, we're going to go ahead and bring these two together. This really isn't too much to talk about, especially given that it's lower volume balance as well. Notice we do have this little gap, this little valley area here from the 620s to the 540s. I'm not going to put another zone here since we have one right above it. But basically this VPOC zone is going to be pretty important from if we can stay above that Friday's most traded area or if we're going to fall back below. And if we do fall back below, we have a lot of thin air-ish from recent actions. But overall, this is still that great wall of balance that the buyers climbed up in a day that the sellers may or may not have trouble with. But do remember that we do have data coming this week. But again, we'll say the theorizing for later on. Quick time check. We're at 15 minutes. We have a good understanding of where we are from a narrative standpoint. We understand what we're looking at coming for this week. No real big news or catalysts upcoming that happened today. We're more just anticipating data, which I would imagine that played a factor in the non-conviction or the low conviction from the sellers and the buyers today. We basically just agreed on the price that we've been staying at recently. But I digress. So we're going to go ahead and ask ourselves the questions. Where's the market coming from? This was a awesome show of defense from the buyers with this down spike, possibly a bear trap, given the little bit of information that we have now. But again, I don't want us to overlook this awesome intermediate trend that let me not say awesome, this aggressive downtrend that we're having from the sellers. 1 week of the buyers should not completely invalidate this, but I'll leave it at there for now. Where is the market coming from? An awesome performance for last week offer a historic sell-off. Very nicely played defense, and we're simply balancing above. Their goal was to balance above. Talked about. Was there any surprises? I do like the little small hints of more bullishness on the NQ side. I have been mentioning that they've been showing just small, subtle hints that they're a little stronger, a little more resilient, and just little cases like the ES breaking below 3-4 points from the overnight low and breaking off the overdrive, not overdrive, oh, pardon me, the open drive from the A bracket and down spike for that little stop run there. This is what happened on the ES. Notice a little break from the overnight low to end the A bracket. And we did not have that for the NQ. We had our open drive kind of, which was at that high balance and protected by, a few points. How many points was this? Protected it by 10 points. So very nice. So overall, very nice showing. That is a little not surprising to me, but I can see how that would be surprising to some people. I think this is a very nice sign and just helpful notes for NQ moving forward. Go ahead and close that here. So we have an understanding of where we're at. I'll go ahead and make a quick notes for the actual way that we traded so we can keep this symmetrical on how we do every day. Keep it consistent. We resumed from where we closed on Friday. Sunday morning, we open up and shoot up a couple of candles, and we test the previous day's range and found support at the IB high. ES ticked below it, and Q traded just a little bit below, relatively speaking, about the same. And then an immediate response up above the VWAP. And we pretty much two-way traded above, higher highs, higher lows the entire time. This was incredibly annoying. I was looking at this. Let me not say annoying. Seeing this in real time, there was definitely a lot of sellers who were trying to push it down, a lot of retail, but there's no real reason for a continuation given the upcoming data. Buyers are trying to hold this price. Traded above the VWAP for the entire time, higher highs into the open with a small little pullback into the open drive sell-off. I'm gonna look at the ES at 20 minutes, the open drive sell-off here, and then the complete reversal for the B bracket, which is going to be just another sign for balance as we had two-way trading the whole overnight session. and we sell off from the top to the lower portion and we go back to the top. Once we're above the top, there's no real conviction at the highs. We go back towards the midpoint, and then just more of that same two-way trading just throughout this whole balance area. Again, on low volume. Starting to make some lows here overnight, but we're not going to pay attention to overnight. So again, nothing really too fancy here. We do have something part of our playbook where we make a new high or a new high or low in B bracket, and we look for a pullback towards the mid, depending on where we are in structures. We ended up finding that support at that mid, tested above for that overnight high, got rejected, couldn't hold the open, and just fell back into the IB mid, complete showing the balance. Again, I would imagine this would be about the same situation for the NQ. Open test drive, open drive kind of behavior. Complete reversing and going through it, trading a little bit more above, finding some support, targeting these overnight highs. Same situation here. Ideally, you would want to target the for a new HOD on this pullback from the IB mid. The only issue here is that given the balance, you wouldn't expect too much or a potential failure somewhere up here. So again, we just fall into balance, and really that's about it. So as of right now, at 21 minutes, we can go ahead and cut it there short. I don't really have too much here because again, I was not looking at this real time, so I only have so much information. This was just a pure balance day, nothing fancy, nothing sexy here. We're just holding the price upwards until we can get to this data and kind of go from there. I do have a few mental notes that I took during this conversation. Seeing this stop runs from overnight with rally attempts is definitely indicative of bull markets. Seeing low volume and low range, low volatility, it's indicative of bull markets and trend ups as well. From what I've noticed, I'm definitely becoming a little more enthused and trying to make sure I'm using the correct word without any bias. But buyers are definitely catching my interest, especially if we can continue to open above the prior day's range and find support there. You may not look for trend continuation, but this may be more of the annoying two-way trading balance range that a lot of people are really uncomfortable with. I think it's incredibly important to be mindful of this while you're in the environment because this can be seen as a potential curveball given the massive volatility and range that we had. Just looking at the ES here. So, you go from 200, 120, 140, 180 range to 60, 50. But we do have data upcoming. So this is very similar to the earnings from a couple of weeks back. Monday is going to look how it's going to look, but things are subject to change as we get more information. I think it's best to stay patient and understand what we're looking for. So as we head into this week, I'm primarily looking for nice responses with the SOC zones, maybe some leaks below that are possibly hitting the overnight low in tandem with the SOC low, and vice versa with the overnight high and the SOC high for some continuation, or potentially breakouts and continuations from the SOC extreme with some coiling to start our session with a breakout above or a breakout below for the B bracket, and then a potential retest on the IB low or IB high. If we're in the adversaries or the other side's range, then you would expect that you would have more excursion to the IB mid or the other side of that extreme, if that does make sense. We'll go ahead and cut the video short here. I'm looking forward to this week. It's going to be a big focus on our data. So our job is to sit on the sidelines until then and remain objective. So have a good week.